What's up everyone, Darcblade here with a top 10 list. Now for those of you who follow the channel regularly may know that we're in the middle of moving apartments. As such, we have no internet and reduced entertainment. On top of that, the YouTube schedule is completely gone out the window, but it's giving me time to reminisce, especially on what were the decent games of 2016. And as such, I present to you my personal and delayed top 10 games of 2016. Now remember, this is a personal list, and yours will probably more than likely differ. Also on top of that, there were many decent games for 2016, and as such I present to you a quick highlight reel showing off games that didn't make the list, either because I played them after 2016 or I didn't get around to playing them at all but I still wanted to.
It should be called Cripple Gulch, just east of Gonna Pee in a Bag Forever Flats.
Oh, is that Absorka Indian? Maybe Creek?
That's actually English for not in my job description. No! Oh.
Now moving away from the highlights to take a look at the top 10 games. Starting with number 10, Attack on Titan Wings of Freedom. This game was brought to us by the developers of the Dynasty Warriors games. These are normally quite repetitive games, the Dynasty Warriors, but nonetheless have a following and appeal to some players. However, they were able to quite accurately recreate some of the action of the Attack on Titan anime, which, if you're a fan of the anime, is something you've been wanting in a video game for a while now. And while there have been some games that tried to emulate the Attack on Titan experience, they weren't exactly great. But Attack on Titan Wings of Freedom brings us a nice experience that simulates taking on titans with 3D maneuvering gear. Whilst by no means a perfect game, as it did have flaws especially when it comes to variety and repetition, it was nonetheless entertaining while it lasted. Number 9. Pokemon Sun and Moon. Normally I rate Pokemon games quite highly, and Pokemon Sun and Moon in some respect doesn't stray too far from the Pokemon formula. If you played any of the other Pokemon games, you'll know what to expect. And in some respect, Nintendo and Game Freak have expanded on every aspect of Pokemon with Pokemon Sun and Moon. Mostly all gameplay aspects have been improved upon and made better. And to be honest, the only real reason it isn't higher on the list is because I'm probably still burnt out from Pokemon X and Y. But I nonetheless had a good time playing the game, which got it a place on this list. Number 8. Total War Warhammer. Now this game would be a lot higher on the list, if not for two things. One, I didn't have a lot of time to play the game, this is due to work and other commitments, and two, I wish I had a better system to actually play it on. Playing it on minimum settings didn't really give me the best experience that this game had to offer, which is a shame, but I nonetheless still enjoyed myself. The Warhammer series has always been dear to my heart since I was a teen, and ever since I experienced Shogun Total War, which I believe was the first Total War game, I've wanted them to combine forces. Not only would this give us great campaign settings, but it would be a little bit easier on the wallet, as the Warhammer franchise in physical form, the hobby I mean, is very expensive. And being able to play it in a Total War setting in a video game not only relieves the financial strain, but it also puts us in the virtual world that Games Workshop have created with Warhammer Fantasy. Like I said though, if I had a better system, this game would probably be a lot higher on my list. Number 7. XCOM 2. XCOM 2 was a great improvement on the previous reboots of XCOM, which include Enemy Within and Enemy Unknown, giving us a new story where, to be honest, XCOM lost and are now fighting a guerrilla battle against an occupation force. It really mixes things up. Whilst the gameplay is familiar, it's been improved upon in a lot of ways. Originally it was only out for PC, and at the time my PC Managed to play it at a okay setting, but it could have been better. But it was released at least for consoles, and I was able to play it at a bit more of a stable pace. Of course, I am now covering XCOM 2 on the channel in a live stream Let's Play, but this has taken advantage of the 2017 expansion War of the Chosen, which greatly increases the game's appeal to me. If XCOM 2 was released with War of the Chosen at launch, this game would probably be a lot higher on the list. Number 6. Dark Souls 3. Some people may dislike that I've put Dark Souls 3 at a lower position on the list. Some people will probably expect it to be at least in the top 3. But for me, Dark Souls 3 was a bit of a hit and a miss. Yes, there were good elements about the game that I really enjoyed, such as the gameplay and the combat, but there were other elements that really grated on me. For example, the convoluted side quests really bugged me and spoilt my first playthrough. That being said though, I do admit it is a good game, it's a great game. I personally enjoyed that they sped up the combat slightly, maybe bringing a little bit of an influence from Bloodborne, and I also slightly enjoyed what From Software did with the fan service and wrapping up lore elements and such. Whilst I understand some players may not think this is the best Dark Souls in terms of story, it was nonetheless enjoyable. Number 5. Final Fantasy 15. Now those of you who have known me from secondary school or high school, for those of you in the US, may remember me being quite a fan of Final Fantasy 7 and 8. However, this soon died down with Final Fantasy 9, 10, and afterwards I stopped playing them altogether. This continued as games like Final Fantasy 13 and that were released, but this slightly changed when I started seeing reviews of Final Fantasy 15. Normally this was not on my radar whatsoever, I wasn't interested in it, I wasn't going to get it, but I was given it as a gift. Diving into it around Christmas time, I actually started enjoying myself quite a lot with this game. I didn't think I would, but the road trip bromance with Noctis and his pals was really endearing. The gameplay also didn't grate on me at all, and the presentation was actually good. Whilst the story definitely did have some weak elements, and to be honest the best aspect was the road trip, it was nonetheless a surprise, and it turned into a game that I quite enjoyed, and thus earning its place on this list. Number 4. Doom. Also known as Doom 2016. This reimagining of the classic game was fast-paced and very visceral. That being said though, although there were annoyances and controversies when it came to review copies of the game and Bethesda's handling of the game, it lived up to hype. It was fun and action-packed. It felt a bit like the classic Doom, albeit with a few modern elements in it. It was gory, didn't really hold your hand. I personally don't think this game did the Doom series any injustice at all. On top of that as well, it also had music by my favourite video game composer Mick Gordon, which just added to the overall enjoyment. Number 3. Don't Starve Together. Now don't get me wrong, Don't Starve Together has been in early access for a long time now, but its official release was in 2016. Ever since I picked up Don't Starve on PlayStation Plus, back when the PlayStation 4 first came out, I've been fascinated with the Don't Starve series, not only for its art style but also its survival gameplay. Taking influences from Tim Burton films, combined with classic survival gameplay mechanics such as crafting and gathering food. Don't Starve Together allows you to take on the harsh worlds this game offers with friends, making it even more entertaining. On top of that, Clay Entertainment are also constantly updating Don't Starve Together, giving us more and more content, and it's still even being updated today. Whilst I do believe this game is definitely a niche game, it is nonetheless one of mine and Fell Bunny's personal favourites. Number 2. Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. The Uncharted franchise has always been one of my favourites. As a franchise as a whole, it may be tied for number 1 even. Uncharted 4 was 2016's offering in the series, bringing pretty much a close to the Nathan Drake saga. It was a fast-paced, witty adventure story, very similar to what we've experienced in other Uncharted games. That being said though, they brought a few close-to-home story elements, such as family and why Nathan Drake is constantly putting himself at risk. The gameplay was much the same as we experienced in other Uncharted games, with third-person shooting combined with light platforming and puzzle elements. The reason I enjoy these games so much is twofold. 1, it feels like you're playing an Indiana Jones film, and 2, I have a very big soft spot for the storytelling that Naughty Dog brings us with the Uncharted series. On top of that, it also brought Uncharted multiplayer to the PlayStation 4, giving us lots of competitive content that is still even being updated today. On top of that, the presentation it gave us was some of the best you could find on the PlayStation 4, and it still is in some respect. and in all honesty, in some ways it does pain me at putting this at number 2. But that is because my number 1 is Overwatch. Blizzard Entertainment brought us a shooter that is in some ways perfect, but at the same time very flawed. Yes, its gameplay elements are close to perfection, as well as its character design and presentation, but there are certain elements that are very flawed. For example, its storytelling, and how most of its story and lore are told outside of the game itself. That being said though, this is the game that I had most fun with in 2016. This is mainly because of 3 reasons. Like I already mentioned, the gameplay, the shooting mechanics and the characters in the game, the classes, they all blended together so well, making almost every match enjoyable no matter who you were playing. Yes, there were some elements that could ruin everything, for example being stuck with a team of Genjis where no one wanted to be the healer and people not cooperating with one another. When you were able to get into a team or you were playing with friends, it meant the matches were fun and enjoyable. The other reason would be that it's the game that I enjoyed playing most with others during 2016. Finally, Blizzard gave us some great presentation with Overwatch, and almost every graphical, sound and design just oozes quality. Whilst I will freely admit it is a flawed game, as certain aspects such as competitive, trolls and toxicity can get in the way, during the time I played Overwatch in 2016 I had a blast. It was easily the most enjoyable game to play with others, making it my number 1 game of 2016. So anyway, that's been my top 10 list. Now of course your opinion may completely be different to this list, and I would actually like to hear what your top 10 games of 2016 were, so leave a comment down below. Obviously I understand that if you play on different systems, Xbox, PC, PS4, this can also influence what your favourite games were of 2016. Lastly, 2 apologies. Firstly, sorry this list is incredibly late. It was normally supposed to be released back in sort of January, February of 2017, but hey ho, what can you do? And secondly, sorry if I sound a little bit nasally or sick in this video. Thanks to Fell Bunny, there has been a cold floating around during this apartment move period, and I fear I've actually contracted it. But hopefully it won't last too long. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you my top 10 games of 2016. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.